Hello, my name is John Michael Foulger. I'm represented by Mary Liz Management. I've been a professional actor for over 30 years now, and I do film, television, and stage. Emma.
Hello, I'm called Emma Spurgin Hussey. I am an actor. I do lots of different things really. I do stage and telly and film and audio books and simulated patient work and lots of different things. I also write a bit as well. Erin.
Hi, I am Erin Moffat, and I consider myself a writer who acts. I focus more on writing. I write screenplays and plays, and as well as working on a novel right now. So I'm excited to read your script, Angela.
I'm Angela Elliott, and I'm a writer of screenplays for TV and film, and also novels. I've been writing for a very long time. Seems like the whole of my life, but it hasn't been the whole of my life. And we really like reading scripts. So this one is The Abyss by Paul Whitby. We believe that it is well, it's a stage play, and for that reason, we are only going to be reading the first 5 pages of the script because we normally read film scripts, so screenplays, and our formatting, our request for 10 pages of script is based on the fact that it's a minute a page on a screenplay formatted script, and this is formatted in play, in theatre format. So uh, when you work it out, 5 pages is the equivalent of 10 pages on screenplay. So The Abyss, Act 1, a dining room in Hamburg, working class house in early summer 1942. The table is being set for 4 by Hanny. Annie is doing some homework on the table and is getting in her mother's way. There are a number of bottles and glasses set out on a sideboard. To one side is a door.
All packed?
I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. Mommy?
Have you remembered your towel?
Mommy, I don't want to go in up into the League of German Maidens next year. I want to stay in the Young Girls League.
I don't think you have a choice actually. But why is that, Annie?
They're foul. Gretchen's big sister is in the German Maidens, and Gretchen says they're all sex mad. It's horrid.
Oh, really, Annie?
All the lectures and films are about finding a husband, having sex with him for Hitler, and having babies. They do loads of cooking and house cleaning, too.
Not so much fun then.
It's really dull. And all Gretchen's sister's friends talk about is how to get a boy and what they're going to do with him once they've got him. It's horrid. They all want a boy like Franz. Ugh.
I'm sure that's not right, dear.
It is, Mommy. It's all about having babies and being a good cook. So it means finding a husband who's a soldier and having sex with him. That's all the big girls talk about. Going with boys. Do you know, Gretchen says they're called the League of German Mattresses. It's disgusting.
Oh, Annie, I'm sure you don't know what you're talking about.
I do. Gretchen has a book she got from her sister, and it shows it all with drawings. And it's not always the man who's on top, you know.
Oh,
That's all Gretchen's sister's friends want to do. Have sex so they can have a baby. And when they've had a baby, they want to have sex again so they can have another one. It's so depressing. They're all the same, like a bunch of sheep.
is that all they get taught? Surely not.
It is. It's all about being a good wife and mother. I don't want to do that. I mean, there's so much more a woman like me can do.
What were you thinking of?
Oh, anything. Maybe I could be a dancer or an architect, anything but a noble German housewife. I want to do something remarkable with my life.
I'm sure you will, dear.
I don't mean I don't want a husband, but when I get married, it'll be to a man with a pure soul, and because I love him. I won't just pick someone with the correct worldview and blonde hair. I think the sex bit could be a bit nice if you love him, but I won't do it for Hitler. It's none of his business.
You'd better not let Franz hear you talking like that.
Goody two shoes friends. I don't care about him. He's such a big head.
Just you be careful what you say around Franz.
Like you and Daddy are. Franz is horrid, and now he can go around bullying other people because he's an officer.
Nonetheless,
And another thing, The German maiden's uniform is awful. It doesn't do anything for my figure.
Herman enters, dressed in the green uniform of the Order Police. He stands to attention and clicks his heels.
Well, what do you think?
Very smart.
We can't hear you, Erin.
Oh, very nice, Daddy.
Thanks. Notice anything, honey?
You've had a shave?
Mommy, it's about his epaulette. Daddy's showing us his new epaulette.
Of course. Now I see it. You look twice as smart.
And he gives Herman a kiss on the cheek.
My Herman the Rottmeister. You can show it off to Karl and Irmgard.
You don't think I'm showing off, do you? I'm only an NCO. I'll change before they come. I mean, if a man can't show off to his own family, this will make a difference for us.
Oh, go on, you show it off. You've earned it. Clever clogs Karl didn't. You won't let the power go to your head, will you?
Daddy won't do that. He'll be a very good policeman.
Thank you, dear. I'll try. Yes, the money will come in handy. Shame for Karl, though. Hope he doesn't mind too much.
He goes and pours himself a drink, holds up the bottle to Hanny with an inquiring look, but she shakes her head.
Annie, you better go and get ready. Off you go now. Clear your books away. Don't want to keep Gretchen waiting, do you? Karl and Irmgard will be here soon anyhow, so I'll need this table.
Daddy says she's really beautiful.
Daddy is right, of course.
And a singer in a nightclub.
That's right, a real songbird.
Annie clears up her books and pencils and skips off.
Please don't drink too much tonight, Herman.
It's a farewell party. Besides, my knees are hurting. I think they're getting worse.
Well, drinking won't help that. You're not getting any younger. Nor are your knees.
They look at each other and Herman takes a long pull from his glass.
The epaulette's good, but this uniform's rubbish. Not like our France, making all the girls weak at the knees when he flashes his shiny boots at them.
Well, minxes. I bet they think babies for Hitler. Annie's just been filling me in on what the League of German Maidens get up to. You'd think they'd be more careful. Telling a load of adolescent girls their first duty is to produce babies for Germany. It's just asking for trouble.
God help us.
It's not right. It's the parents' job to tell them about family life.
You're right there. But you won't change anything. Anyhow, I think Annie's going to be all okay. She doesn't follow the crowd.
Franz is a lost cause. Do you know, yesterday, I simply said the Russia campaign seemed to be going a bit slowly now. Well, he didn't like that, really didn't like it. Said it was defeatist, as if. Said victory is inevitable. You should tell the Russians that.
Don't worry about that boy. Be careful what you say around him. He'd denounce us for the greater good. Wouldn't do his career any harm either. What's for dinner?
Roast pork, fresh from Brown's today. It's the same for him, you know. Scared of his kids. Usually you go in and he just flops his hand around and mumbles Heil Hitler. But today it was the full salute and shout.
Him too.
I couldn't believe it. So I looked around and I saw his son out the back listening. Greasy little lout. So I gave a very enthusiastic salute back. Herr Brown gave me a wink, but it's not funny, really. He's a little shit, that son.
Do you remember how nice it was when we had Helen lodging? You could talk to her without worrying where it would go. She wasn't sneaking off to a youth meeting and denouncing us.
Nice girl, wasn't she? Wonder what she's doing now back in England.
Knitting scarves for the RAF, I should think, keeping them warm while they drop bombs on us. I wish you'd leave Hamburg. You'd be so much safe with your parents.
I know. But my mother will go round the bend in a week. She's never forgiven me for marrying a Lutheran.
I'll convert. It'll put my mind at ease. I really would sleep easier at night if I knew you were safe.
Well, yes, I can see that. But me living with my mother, that witch. Would you sleep easier at night knowing I was spending my days being bossed around, being nagged to go to mass every day and twice on Sundays?
She's just concerned about your soul.
And the gossip, the self-righteous gossip.
I know. You could denounce her. Denounce her to the Gestapo or for something or other. Get her locked up. We'd have a nice big house together, just you and me, Annie and your father. What about that?
The Gestapo wouldn't touch my mother. They'd be too scared.
Let's think about Hanny. It'd mean a lot to me. Both of you safe in the countryside.
Knocking at the door off stage.
Oh, God, they're early. Me still in this get-up. I'll go.
Herman indicates he will answer the door. He leaves. Hanny hurriedly tidies the table. Off stage, we hear him shout.
Attention!
Laughter and sounds of greeting off stage from Herman, Carl, and Irmgard. Herman ushers them into the dining room.
Hanny, you look wonderful, as ever. How are you doing, my dear? So good to see you again.
Perfect as usual, Hanny. Carl, give Herman the wine.
But you look so beautiful, Irmgard, and I love your frock. How do you manage it these days?
This? Thank you, darling. I do my best to keep my man's spirits up. Just wish he'd notice. Your husband looks beautiful too. Such a clever man.
Indeed he is.
So that's the end of our excerpt, I think. Would you like to start off, Erin? Because you were listening to the end of that. So let me roll back to the beginning.
Oh, sure. Well, I do have questions about the similar character names too, the Hanny and Annie. And then there's two Ermengardes. Did I say that wrong? Ermengarde. I know I'm not sure if there's a point to that because we've only read this far, but reasoning for it. But I was really interested in the dynamic with the mom and the daughter because of the time period. I think it I'm surprised. I think that the mom seems like she may be progressive, but I don't know in 1942 if she'd be that progressive and comfortable with her daughter having this conversation with her. So I would say that maybe a little like, and it's she repeats a lot of the same things over and over and over again, and I'm not quite sure if it's like a shock value thing because they do approach the fact that she's like different, you know, or if she's just like repeating information. And the dynamic between like at that age, like I don't know that that's something she would share with her mom aloud. So I feel like there needs to be some sort of something that explains like their dynamic a little bit more through the dialogue if they're having that type of conversation. I think it's interesting. I'm curious about like what the characters that are mentioned. They're mentioning a lot of people that we haven't met yet, so I'm interested to see how they play into it or if they're just people that are mentioned, you know, because it's, you know, with the characters in order of appearance, the people that are mentioned are not some of the people that are mentioned are just people that they talk about. So like who is Gretchen? The Gretchen sisters' friends, like what's the relationship to Gretchen? Is she just someone they know from like school or whatnot? So yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. But I don't know. Somebody else want to take it. That's all I got right now.
Okay, cool. Thank you. John.
Oh, so many things. So she's 13 years old, is younger Annie. This is 42. Hitler started his search for power in the beer hall push. And he eventually became chancellor and ultimate complete ruler of Germany in 33. So Annie's had 9 years of this. She's obviously been in the Young Girls League for, well, they joined when they were 6. So she's been in for 7 years. She wouldn't be using the language that you've written. She certainly wouldn't be talking about sex with her mother.
No.
These things were kept very quiet. They were instructed in the League of German Maidens that basically their principal role was to be a good, strong housewife for her young soldier or defender of the motherland or the fatherland, sorry, the defender of the fatherland, as Hitler used to call them. The talk about sex just wouldn't happen. It really wouldn't happen in 1942 between a 13-year-old girl and her mother. So I think your language is probably far too modern. But yes, I get what you're on about. But no, it wouldn't happen. Yeah. The whole concept of this noble German housewife is what the League of German Maidens was all about. But the rest, I don't know where we're going. Primarily just because we only read the first 5. So I'll have to read the other 5. But based on this, I think it should be interesting. I'm just not sure in what direction it's going.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I can't say much more else.
That's great. Thank you. No, thank you. That's very useful. Emma.
Some of it's just general writing stuff rather than about this particular, story. I was wondering, because I thought, again, some of the language seems quite modern, and I was also thinking some of it seems so English, and there's just something very particular about saying mummy that kept making me think more of the sort of world of Enid Blyton, say. And I was just wondering whether, because they've got these German sounding names, there are, I think places mentioned, aren't there, and things. I just wondered whether, Rotmeister is there, whether, she could call her Mutti or something like that, which I believe is what German people sometimes call their mums. And I thought just to keep placing it there, because it does seem so translated into English at the moment, to me anyway, some of the words that are being used. I actually looked up round the bend to see when it was first used, and apparently it's Victorian, but it sounds very modern. And I think sometimes, even if you've got, absolute sort of proof of, of provenance, sometimes if it sounds modern, it's probably as well to, not use it. But just a few little bits and pieces. I mean, you don't need so much detail in the stage directions, otherwise directors and designers and other folk haven't got very much to do. So I would just cut those back a little bit. And also just in terms of format, I know it's not as rigid as writing for screen, but I would try and just use the same the same convention each time. So once you've got he goes and pours himself a drink, that section on page 3, which is in brackets. It only needs to be in brackets if it's ahead of a speech. And so if it was like German, quietly, Herman, quietly, you don't think I'm showing off, do you, or something like that. But yeah, you don't need the brackets otherwise. My challenge to you would be really, how much can you cut away and still get the story that you want to tell? And I think, it's a brave thing to do this story, because obviously it's been covered very, very much in fiction. And, so it's always interesting to see what people can bring that's new. But I would really try and cut back. Why do I say that? I think that there's not very much tension given the situation. And I think, even if they're safe because they're, not Jewish, say, there will be neighbors maybe who might hear things. And I just think the whole thing just seems quite leisurely, quite relaxed. And I'm just thinking, how can we sort of leave those spaces, giving room for actors to actors love doing this thing where you can show a thought. Actors love acting between the lines. You know, they say good actor acts on the line, a great actor, not that I'm pretending I am one, acts between the lines. And I think it's that thing where we love that challenge of, you know, for example, they were talking about Helen, and she says, "Oh, she was nice, Helen," or something like that. And I just think, you know, there can be just the smile in her voice or something when she's talking about her, you know, that we don't necessarily need to be told everything. So I would challenge you to cut back, strip back, you know, speeches, strip back, yeah, so you know, how little can you say? And maybe you'll find that, you know, certain things, when you get this into a room with actors, can be workshopped, and you'll find yourself really happily actually striking through a whole page of dialogue because they've just done it with, you know, an expression, and you think, thank you. Yeah, you saved me from overwriting. So that's your challenge. See whether you can cut it back by a third, and then see if you can cut it back by a half again, because I think that would make it more lean and more enigmatic, actually. And it's hard, isn't it, when you research, because you want to show your research. But I also think sometimes it's like you need to give it a good, decent burial, your research. You can't just leave it on the surface, you know, bury it. That's your game, actually, is how can you show things without explaining. So those are some other thoughts. Let me just see there. Read it out, please read it out. You know, we've done it, but you know, read out the whole thing. If it feels like it's a load of, you know, kind of porridge in your mouth, it will probably feel like that to actors. You know, if there's something that's going to trip people up with a tongue twister, you'll find out about the rhythm. Read the whole thing out. Getting, you know, a program on your computer to do it isn't the same. You need to hear it, but you need to know what it's like from inside to feel it in your mouth. Don't let people always finish their sentences and their thoughts, because it doesn't feel like people speaking. Families particularly, as you know, cut in to each other all the time when they're speaking, talk over each other. You know, it just feels like people are very politely waiting for each other to finish their paragraph. Yeah, I'd really like to know what the urgency is. You know, the stakes are clearly high here, but it doesn't feel urgent. Think about the objectives for each character. If you aren't familiar with that as a writing thing, it's what they want in a scene. That's a scene objective, and each character has an overarching objective. You know, their super objective for the whole story, and that's their desired end state. You know, and at the moment, it just feels quite relaxed to me. Yeah, there's some little bits, the bit about Brown, the roast pork speech on page 4. It's not entirely clear that it's Brown's son who's being spoken about. First of all, I thought it was Franz. So just, yeah, I would just tidy that. Let audiences please feel clever. Don't spoon feed them. We don't need to, yeah, sorry, I said that a bit about Helen, but just, we love to feel clever in the audience. Don't explain everything. Let some things be unspoken. Let there be undercurrents. Leave actors something to do. And those are all my things. And I mean, I think, you know, some of the things are quite quick, easy fixes. And it's always quite nice as a writer to get those notes, which are just quick fixes. And you can, you know, sort of warm up, as it were, doing those things. And then there's some things that, I mean, I hope sometimes editing is great fun. Sometimes it's really quite exhilarating, cutting back and seeing what can still tell your story. So I hope you don't feel deflated, but those were just some thoughts that I had when reading it.
No, brilliant. Thank you, Emma. That you covered many of the points that I was going to make, actually. So I won't go into the dialogue bit because I think you've covered that, but I echo what you've said there. I also echo the bit about the name similarity, Annie and Annie. It's quite confusing, and I think you might choose a different name for one of them. That's given that they are not real people. If they're real people, you've got a problem. But you know, so in that case, I will also echo what John has said about this is 1942. So certainly they're not strangers to the war or to Hitler, any of them. They are, having written about this period, having written about a true story in this period as a screenplay. I also have, I think, a reasonably good understanding of writing in that period. And I also have a very close friend who is German, who is my age, and that's not young, let's say. And she has spoken to me. We have talked about the war at length, which is quite interesting because it's difficult to have a conversation with a German about World War II. It's always that thing where, you know, oh, don't mention the war, you know. But I know Brit very well, and we've spoken about the war, and her parents' experience and my parents' experience, because they are two sides of the, you know, her parents were young teenagers during the war. My parents were teenagers during the war. My father went to war. Her father went to war, you know, on the different sides. So it's very interesting comparing the two and understanding the German perspective of it. I agree. This is a conversation about sex which would not happen. They might talk about being the perfect wife, the perfect mother. They would not talk about sex. I know this from my mother, who was, you know, I think we're talking about a generation who were very tight-lipped about sex. And having spoken to Brit at length about these things as well, I know it's echoed throughout Europe. It was the time period. Sex was most definitely something that was in the bedroom, not spoken to with your children. If you were a girl, I mean, my mother couldn't even bring herself to talk about using sanitary products when I got to that age, because it was one of those things that she was told by her mother, no, it's all very secret, quiet, you know, no, you don't let anybody know. It's so I think it was very bottled up and repressed. And I think that mother, if that daughter had started to talk about it, she would shut her down faster than she would just be like, I'm not having any of that talk here. You know, it's that kind of thing. So as it stands, that doesn't ring true, I'm afraid, at the moment. But I also wonder about the mother's feelings about her son, who is an SS officer. I mean, that you're in a perpetual state of terror when you're in a war situation. And that mother's going to be out of her mind with worry, making sure her son is okay, you know, worrying about him, no matter whether she believes he's doing the right thing or not, or is a Nazi or not a Nazi, it's still your child, and you're going to worry about them. So I don't get a sense that I get a bit of the pride, but I don't get a sense that, you know, is he okay? You know, but the daughter says, "Ooh, France," you know, looks like. But come on, this is a kid. This is your kid. He's gone to war. You know.
It's still 1942, so
Yeah.
that pride thing is definitely there. You
Oh,
get
yeah,
that. You get that with that one line. You know,
absolutely.
victory is inevitable.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the indoctrination and the repressive society.
yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, because otherwise I could go on. I could blather
There's
on.
just one little thing I'd like to say. Germans don't use the expression daddy. It's papa.
Papa, yeah, yeah.
I know this because I lived in Germany in the 60s.
Okay, so
Erin's got something to
yes,
say,
Erin.
I think.
Sorry. It's sort of snowballing off of everything that Emma said and Angela. I wrote a piece that took place in World War II, and I went for a critique on it. And the feedback that I got that was really helpful, which I think might help you, is whose story is it? Because I think the Young Girls League, there's a lot of stuff about World War II out there, a lot. And people are always interested in these stories. But whose story is it? Is it a coming of age story about Annie? Because I've not seen a lot about the German maidens in the Young Girls League out there. So I think that's the piece that intrigues me most as an actor. And I also think the balance of showing and telling and over explaining things. There's so much, like Emma said, the dynamic of the uncomfortability between the mother having this conversation that maybe broaching inappropriate. Like, does she have access to this book? Maybe she has the book with her, so it's unspoken. And she's like, close that book now or something. So it's still talking about it without talking about it. Because I do think, like, I don't think that, again, that they would have that conversation, but whose story is it? Because I think that that's the most important thing here, because there is a lot going on. And I think that once you figure that out, like, all these things that we're telling you is going to just, like, that's where it's going to
Makes
be.
it a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you. And anyways.
Fabulous. Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting us read it anyway.